Hey, hi everyone, and thanks for joining us on this week's vlog. I'm Maverick Gill. This is Gully and the Cruise Bears, and I've got for you some cruise news this week and a preview of our British Isles cruise. Should you do a British Isles cruise? Well, maybe it'll give you a better idea after this video. I'm going to take you through some of the things that we're going to be doing on a British Isles cruise and why I think it could be a good thing for you to do. We are heading off on our own British Isles cruise in just a few weeks now, and I'll be publishing a full review of the Regal Princess ship. I will be doing some port reviews. I will be doing a ship's tour, which I'll be publishing, and I'll also be coming live to you and doing some reviews of quite a few of the ports that we're going to do, some of which I'm going to preview for you. But you know, the cruising world is growing exponentially. I can't believe how big it is getting. In our home port in the UK of Southampton this week, we are welcoming some 13 ships, 13 cruise ships from companies such as Ada, with the Ada Primer coming in. We've got the Celebrity Apex, we've got a couple of P&O ships, we've got a whole week of it. How long before we're going to need some more cruise ports in the UK, the way this is going? And also, Carnival announced their results this week. That's crazy, given how bad things were during the pandemic back in 2020, 2021. Would you believe that Carnival Cruises would be announcing in the second quarter this year record sales, record volumes, record bookings? Unbelievable. Share price soared 5% in a day. Crazy. We never saw that coming, but the cruise market continues to grow, and long may it continue. One thing about the share price on the Carnival brings me to remember a little not so well known fact that Carnival actually offer a shareholder benefit. So if you buy roughly about £1,000 worth of shares in the Carnival group, they actually give you some additional onboard credit every time you cruise with them. Now, it's important to remember before you all rush out buying shares that the share price can go down as well as up. So you could actually potentially lose all of the money that you put in. They can also be a good investment. So it just depends. If investing in shares is something that you do and something that you're interested in, well, there is an additional benefit that comes with the Carnival cruise shares. And I think Royal Caribbean do it with their group as well. And one final bit of news before I head into looking at the British Isles port reviews and some of the things that we're going to be doing on our cruise and some of the things that you might be doing if you visit the British Isles one day. For our Asian subscribers and viewers, some very exciting news that Disney are launching their 7th cruise ship at the beginning of next year, the Disney Adventure, which will hold some 7,000 passengers and will be the first home-ported cruise outside of the USA. It is going to be home-ported in Singapore. So that's really exciting for all you guys out there, and that's a particular cruise that we would look forward to as well. So I hope I get the chance to fly out there and do some cruising out of Singapore. So, have you ever thought of a British Isles cruise? I must admit, it wasn't the first or highest priority for us when we started cruising, but this forthcoming cruise will be our third cruise around the British Isles. We've previously been on the Emerald, and we are going on the Regal Princess in a few weeks. The Regal Princess, of course, is most famous as the Love Boat. Now, for all you people that watched the original series or the rebooted show that was brought out a few years ago, yeah, that is Princess's Regal cruise ship, the Love Boat. It's a cruise that we have definitely grown to love, and it joins a number of other cruise companies that are currently sailing around the British Isles, including P&O, of course, Carnival, Celebrity, Cunard, and Fred Olsen as well. These cruises tend to be approximately 90% non-British, which we find quite exciting, adds to the vibrancy of the cruise for us, with people coming from all over the world to see these fine British and Irish Isles. The weather in the UK, of course, can be very changeable, So you dress for all the seasons, if you like. We found in July, it's generally very hot for us. And between May and September in the UK, it's quite temperate. But you can find that one moment in Southampton, you're basking in 90 degrees. And then when you get up to the north of Scotland and the Orkney Islands, it can be down as low as the late 50s. So you really do need to pack those cases to cover all eventualities if you come on a British Isles cruise. The ports are really what makes the British Isles cruise quite special, I think. It's a great way to see the British Isles, and some of them even stop at northern France as well. One or two head over to Iceland and Norway with some additional stops too. Now, we will be reviewing all of the ports that we go to on the British Isles in a few times, and publishing quite a few other videos as well. So if you don't want to miss any of that content, then hit the subscribe button or ring that notification bell and you won't miss any. The most common ports include Southampton, of course, the home and starting port for most of the British Isles cruisers. And this is a good opportunity, really, if you can fly in a couple of days earlier, perhaps, then you get the chance to maybe go into our capital city, London, take a show in the West End, see the Houses of Parliament, Buckingham Palace, and all the other things you can do in our capital city. Maybe even head over to Windsor Castle, Stonehenge, perhaps, before what is about a 90-minute journey by train or car or bus, taxi down to Southampton to then get on the cruise and head on around the rest of the British and Irish Islands. And when you're travelling around London, you can hop on to the hop on, hop off bus, like in many cities around the world, which will take you around all the sites. Or you can get a day pass on the London Underground if you're not a claustrophobe like me. And that's a great way of getting around quite cheaply around the city. And if you're really lucky, near Buckingham Palace, you might meet some of these guys. Now, on our cruise on the Regal, we are heading up then to Falmouth, along the south coast to Cornwall, where if you're really lucky, you might get a chance to head off to the Eden Project, which is about an hour and a half's drive from the port, or perhaps to Land's End, which is the furthest southern tip of the United Kingdom in Cornwall, and that's about 30 to 40 minutes drive from the cruise port at Falmouth. Or maybe you just want to head down the beach or have a little walk around beautiful Falmouth as well. This port is actually a tender, so that means that you're going to get on a small boat, probably one of the lifeboats, to actually be brought over to the shore due to the size of the vessel and the local cruise port. Now we then head around to the Emerald Isle island, where we are stopping at Cove. It's actually spelt C-O-B-H, but it's pronounced Cove by the locals, and this is one of my favourite cruise ports. Absolutely love it at Cove. So what you're going to find there is a beautiful little Irish village or small town. It's actually where Roy Keane, the famous footballer, started his career with the local football team there. You're going to find a lovely little area by the cruise port with Irish bars. There's a little park there. There's a couple of gift stalls as well. So it's a lovely place. If you just want to get off the ship, and you can walk off the ship here, just want to get off, walk around, you can do that for a few hours, and you'll have a lovely time, and take in a little bit of island as well, a little bit of the crack. However, if you want to head off into Cork City, you can do that too. So there is a train that runs regularly from the cruise port, from Cove into Cork, which doesn't take too long. The only thing I would say about that is if you are claustrophobic on a cruise arrival day, you probably won't like it, and maybe you'd be better off getting a bus or a taxi or even an organised tour of the cruise company, because it really does get packed on there. But it's quite cheap to use. So if that doesn't concern you, then it's a great way of getting into Cork to see some of the city. And I must mention one of my favourite activities in Cork, which is the Titanic Museum. I believe Cove was the final port over in the British Isles before it headed over the Atlantic to towards America on that fateful cruise. And the Titanic Museum in Cove is quite stunning, really. It's a small museum, but quite a lot packed into it. And when you go into the museum, you will take on the character of somebody who was on the cruise, and you will follow their journey through the cruise, and you'll find out at the end whether they survived or sadly not. It's a great way for entertaining yourself and the family for a couple of hours. Very suitable for families as well. It's about £30, 32 euros ish for a family of four, or for an adult it's about £10 or about 12 euros, and it's right at the cruise port, so it's about 5-10 minutes from getting off the ship and walking up there to the Titanic Museum. Okay, I'm going to get told off by my Irish friends now for how I pronounce this, but Dún Laoghaire is the port stop for Dublin, the capital city of Ireland. When we were there, we had to tender to Dún Laoghaire on a small boat again, and when you get on shore you can then make your way into Dublin, either taxi, hop on hop off bus, or of course if you're on one of the organised trips with Princess as well. And of course in Dublin, being the capital city of Ireland, there's quite a lot to do. There is the world famous Guinness storehouse. If you're a fan of Guinness, the black nectar, then you're going to love it here. This is Ireland's actually most popular attraction, and it's where I think it was Arthur Guinness started his journey all those years ago in creating Guinness, and now it is an attraction for people to visit in Dublin. So if you like your Guinness, I'm sure you'll like that. There's also wonderful cathedrals in Dublin. There are some excellent university campuses, some great architecture, and of course one of the last remaining Disney stores in the British Isles. So if you're a Disney fan, great opportunity to actually find a Disney store, because I think we only have one or two in England now, and there's one in Dublin in Ireland, which our family certainly miss. So yeah, if you're a Disney fan, you can even pop in there. Now up the coast, we're going to head up to Northern Ireland, where we're going to be visiting Belfast. Now, Belfast has an amazing UNESCO site, which is the Giant Causeway, which has over 40,000 interlocking basalt columns. It looks incredible. So that's a great place for you to visit. Probably one for an organised trip, this one, although you can get a taxi up there, I think in about an hour. So you can do it independently as well. And you are very close at the cruise port to Belfast Centre as well. We actually arrived on a Sunday last year, so wasn't quite so good for us, but I think a taxi ride of about 15 minutes from the port would get you into the centre of Belfast. Right, we're now heading over to the west coast of Scotland. Now, we're going into Greenock. Now, Greenock is the kind of home port of Glasgow. So if you want to go and visit Glasgow City, you can. It's also 15 minutes on the train to Edinburgh. So I know on our particular cruise, many people, because we're staying till late the next morning, are going to be heading over on the train to Edinburgh to see the Edinburgh Tattoo, I believe. Greenock itself is fairly small. There's a little shopping centre there. There is a Primark. I know the crew really enjoyed that when we were there, and Mrs. G actually liked that as well. And there's a Costa Coffee and a few things like that. But it's just a small town. So really, it's a base to head from there into Glasgow, unless you want a little bit of a potter. Heading up north on the British Isles cruise, you now get to see some absolutely stunningly beautiful scenery of the north western side of Scotland as we head round to Invergordon, which is the port home, kind of gateway to the Highlands. Invergordon itself is really small. There's a pharmacy, there's a couple of shops, there's a tiny little park. It's quite nice, it's quite quaint, but there's not very much there. However, it's a great way of getting to see the Highlands or popping over to Inverness, which is the nearest major town to Invergordon. That's about 40 minutes, I think. There are some buses, but there's taxis. Again, because you're in the Highlands now, probably organised trips could be the way to go here, or maybe a good local taxi firm for you. But if that's not exciting enough, then you also get to see these as well. One of my favourites. Yep, that's right. They're the drilling platforms, and there's lots of them. And actually, I think they look pretty cool. Also, if your itinerary includes the Orkney Islands, as ours does on the Regal Princess, that is an absolutely beautiful island to stop at. There is a short shuttle bus from the cruise port, which I think took us just a few minutes. You can walk in about 20 minutes, and then you're in the town of Kirkwall, which is a beautiful little place for shops. And it's got a fantastic cathedral as well. I think it's called St Magnus Cathedral. Absolutely beautiful. So you can go in there and just have a walk around. Some really nice restaurants as well. So you could probably spend 3 or 4 hours, as we did, in Kirkwall. No problem at all. But there are plentiful trips and boat rides to go and explore some of the other islands, some of the UNESCO heritage sites. If you are a fan of Outlander, as I am, then the standing stones of Stenness will probably appeal to you as much as they did to me. But just be careful, because if you touch those standing stones, and I'm talking to you Outlander fans here, you don't want to be travelling back in time, and you certainly don't want to be going to this year. Now, heading south down the eastern coast of Scotland, you are, as we head back towards the English eastern coast, you are going to be stopping on most of the British Isles cruise, would be my guess, and we certainly are at Edinburgh, which is one of my favourite ports, one of my favourite places. I've actually worked here for many years as well. I do love the place. I've always described it as just a large village. Of course, it's a big city. But to me, it just has that feel. The Royal Mile for shopping and for getting your tartan. There's the Edinburgh Castle. There's some amazing restaurants. The Witchery in the castle itself. If you're lucky enough to be there for the Edinburgh Tattoo, as I think we are on our cruise, that is fabulous to watch. Make sure you book your tickets in advance where you can. And of course, in late August, I think it is, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival as well, which has a lot of comedians in particular, and other acts performing live. Lots of kind of people start off there. Michael McIntyre famously made his name at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival before becoming the huge international star that he is now. And I was privileged enough to see him. Oh, I must mention Liverpool. Okay, so Liverpool doesn't feature on our cruise this year, but I will mention it because it was on the cruise, British Isles cruise we were on last year and the year before. Liverpool's a fabulous port. Of course, the Beatles most famously came from Liverpool, and there are statues there. You can go on tours to see all of the old stomping grounds of the Beatles. Taxi drivers will take you around and do that, or there are organised buses as well. There's some amazing architecture, the Liver Building, St George's Hall. You cruise right into the city centre. It's a bit like Barcelona, if you've been there, that you can literally just walk off the ship and you are straight into the action. Wonderful museums that are free of charge. You can walk into the city centre from the dock in 15 minutes. It's a wonderful, vibrant city to visit. Now, I just finished with a port which isn't strictly the British Isles, but it is just across the Channel, and it is a favourite with many of our overseas visitors. Le Havre, which is the home port for Paris. Now, okay, just to be clear here, Le Havre is 3 hours away from Paris. So if you are thinking of day tripping into Paris, be very wary of trips that aren't organised by the cruise ship on this one. This is one where it might be worth paying the extra money because it is a very high risk that you will not make it back to the ship in time when you're doing a 3-hour journey into Paris and you've got to get back out of Paris after a day enjoying yourself and back to the ship as well. So it's probably a good one if you are going to do the Paris trip to do that with the ship. If you're not, then there are quite a few local places you can go to. Le Havre is worth a walk around. I think this little village town called Honfleur as well, not far away, which is quite nice. And of course, you are very near to the Normandy landing areas as well, from D-Day and all along that coast. So if you want to see any of the memorial grounds or any of the beaches that all those brave soldiers landed on and sailors all those years ago, then that's a great opportunity to do that, and it's quite an emotional trip as well. And if you're brave enough to venture 2.5 hours west by car, you can get to see the absolutely stunning Mont Saint-Michel. It's really quite incredible. If you've seen any photos online, they look great, but they don't do it justice. It's an amazing place. Well worth a visit, but again, it does run that risk in the time scale of getting back to the ship. So if you can go on a Princess or whichever cruise company you've chosen to go on, I've got a trip to that one. It is really worth going. You've also got to watch the tides as well in terms of when you make your visit, because there are times you can't actually get over to the Mont Saint-Michel when it becomes waterbound. Well, I hope that's given you a kind of a reasonable view of why I think a British Isles cruise is worth some consideration and why we're really looking forward to it in a few weeks. So I'm going to be reviewing most of the ports that I've talked about today. In a few weeks' time, when we go, I'm going to be doing some lives from the ship with a bit of fun, and I'm going to be doing a full review of the ship as well when we get back, and the ship's tour too. So if you don't want to miss any of that, then hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. If you are, then thank you so much, and thank you to all of you for joining the video today. And if you're not already a subscriber, then feel free, check out some of the other cruise reviews that I've done. We were on the Arvia not so long ago. Got some quite detailed review and tour of that up, and there's quite a few Disney vlogs as well, if there's any Disney fans out there. Carpe diem, great to talk to you all, and I'll talk to you very soon.